Hello and welcome to the Lucky Roll. I'm Tony and today I'll be looking at Tobago. It's a game by Bruce Allen, produced by Zock Spielen, German company. It's for ages 10 and up for 2 to 4 players and the game lasts about an hour. You can see here on the side it's multi-language, German, English and French, which is great. So we'll open the box and get set up and we'll see how it looks. So this is the game set up. As you can see, the board looks beautiful. It's a really nice looking production. The production values are amazing in this game. You can see these stone statues. The texture on them is brilliant looking. It looks really like stone, and they feel really authentic. It's like a Easter Island Maori head. So those are really cool little components. And the others are just fairly straightforward, simple though. Like the little palm trees, and these jeeps are kind of cool. So yeah, that's what the board looked like. So what's going to happen on the player's turn? Well, we can see the game rules here. So the rules come in multiple languages. So there's a German and an English here, which is really cool. And there's a cheat sheet as well. So you can see here it says, an exciting adventure for 2 to 4 treasure hunters, ages 10 and up, by Bruce Allen. So the aim of the game really is for the players to find out where these treasures are located on the island, and go hunt them down in their jeeps, dig them up, and be the player with the most gold at the end of the game. And they do that, right? So the game starts out with the treasures already having some sort of clue on them. And each player gets their token on them, like so. And the players can do one of two things on their turn. They can either move their jeep, which means they can go. They have 3 moves on the island. They can move like through the terrain like this as one move, and it takes an extra move to go from one terrain to another like this. So for instance, to get from here to here, it would take 3 moves. 1, 2, 3, and that's his move action. Another thing they can do is they can play clue cards, which helps to improve the logic, let's say, of the treasure locations. So for instance, this card that they have in their hand, they each get 4 cards, says that this treasure can be 2 spaces next to a statue head. So if they can choose any treasure to place this on. Let's say I'm the green player, I'll place that there. So in this case, and they get their little token. So in this case, this treasure right here, the white treasure, you can say, is not next to a lake, but is next to 2 spaces of a statue. So we can designate that by using these cubes. So if we look at this here, these places here are out of bounds because these are the lakes, right? These are mountains, these are forests, but it could be 2 spaces around this statue. So we can place the cubes to designate that. So 2 spaces. This is next to a lake, can't place it there. So here, here, here. So as you can see at the beginning, there are many, and that applies for every statue around for this clue. So that applies to many different locations. So there could be tons of possibilities. So the way what should be played then is the players keep playing clues, narrowing down the possible locations, and until there's only one cube remaining. So, for instance, if I played this next to a beach, this would take away all of these because there's no beach right here. It would move it. The cubes would only be, for instance, there, there. So not there. So it would take it down. It would remove the cubes, and you would only have the one cube remaining, for instance. And in that case, then that's the treasure. That's where the treasure is. So it's up to the players then to race using their move on the island and to land on the spot with the cube, and then dig that up. So they will go like this, like so, race over there, and then it's their chance to dig up the island, dig up the treasure. So how they get the treasure then is a little bit of a cool mini game actually. What happens is you count each clue, and the treasure is it's that amount of clues. So for instance, if there are 4 clues, you get that amount of treasures plus 1. So there's 5 treasures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the players who played a clue get to see in advance what treasure could come up. So they're given out, and then they're handed up and shuffled up, and then it goes around in order from who dug up the treasure. So they can see here 2 gold, and then they're asked, would you like the 2 gold? And they can say no, because they might have seen, oh, there's like a 5 gold in there. So they say, no, I don't want that 2 gold. And it moves on to the next player, and they might say, oh, yeah, sure, I'll take that 2 gold. And so that's a little different to just normal landing on it on the point, and you think they just get the gold. There's a little bit of a mini game involved. So that's a nice little extra part of the game. And that's basically it. The players are playing the clues, and they're getting the treasures. One extra little bonus is that when a treasure is dug up, the amulets are, weirdly enough, they're fired out of these statues towards the coast. So you look at where they're facing, and then you place an amulet on the coast where the statues are facing, like this. So this guy's looking here. This guy will be looking right here. So these 2 amulets are right together. So players are going to drive over there and collect the 2 amulets. So that'll be a real cool bonus for them. And then after that, the statues are actually moved. They're rotated 60 degrees like this. And so the amulets are going to be moving around the island, and that gives the players an incentive to move rather than play clues. So there's an interesting balance in their decisions there. So that is basically the entirety of the game. The amulets then, I forgot to say what they do. They give players bonus movements. They give them more abilities. You can use an amulet to place an extra clue. You could use an amulet to pick up a cube. You get an extra move. But they're actually important for protecting against curses, which is what I forgot to say. There are cursed cards in the deck, which are really bad. And if a player draws a cursed card, they lose all of their... everyone loses a treasure if they don't have an amulet to sacrifice. So amulets are very important in that regard. So that being said, the game has an excellent production value. The components are top notch. It's really attractive looking. People will walk by the table and go, "Wow, that looks awesome." The cards, they're small cards, but they serve the purpose well enough. There's no negative for having a small deck of cards. The boards are modular. They're 2-sided, and there's slightly different terrain on the other side. So there's a good bit of replayability there as well. All that said, I think the game is good if you know what you're getting yourself into, because from the outset, from the look of the terrain, from the look of the board, from the look of the cover, from the look at all the components, you think it's a adventure, kind of real thematic game, but it's not really. It's a real thinky, puzzly, logical deduction game. It's actually been described as reverse deduction because the location isn't decided upon at the beginning. What the players are doing is they're forming logic to actually narrow down where they want it to be. So it's very confusing if you're coming into the game thinking, oh, let's go around the island and dig up treasure. No, you're actually playing a really tinky kind of logic deduction game. And that can actually throw players off a lot. So be warned in that regard. It didn't really click with the players I played with because of that. And some other things then, the game, it's a little fiddly when you're, let's start when you're setting up. That's not too bad, but whenever you have to rotate all of the statue heads all the time, put out the amulets every time, it can get a little fiddly in that regard because you're rotating all the statue heads. You have to do that. And the amulets or the cursed treasures, if you don't have an amulet, it can be quite imbalanced, I'd say. It can really, you could lose all your treasure. You can lose your best treasure if you don't have an amulet, and you could be way in the lead and become in last place because of that. So it's kind of very swingy. Other things then, the game at the beginning when there's not many clues, it can feel very very loose. There's not much of a direction to go to. There are four different clues, 4 treasures in the game, and you're kind of wrecking your brain going, well, where am I going to begin? You just play out a clue, and it doesn't even narrow down the location at all. So, or you could have a whole hand of cards which are useless, so you don't know what to do. So yeah, the feeling you get out of the game isn't very at the very beginning anyway. Isn't very you don't really set strategy or anything. So there's no real way of setting out what you want to do. But yeah, there are moments of excitement where where the location is really getting narrowed and there's only a couple of cubes left, and you really want to get the cool clue that gets near to your location so you can dig up the treasure, and digging and putting out the treasure. That little mini game is kind of exciting as well. So there are moments of excitement in the game, which is good. Can I recommend the game? Personally, I don't think it was for me. It didn't really click for me or my game group. But if you like the logical reasoning side of things, the logical deduction games, check it out. I hope my review has helped you out in that regard. So for me, Tony at The Lucky Roll, thanks very much, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe.